Hello, soul family. So, welcome back to Wild Woman Podcast. Today we have my soul brother from Convergence Remembrance in Seattle. Um, Last month we were in the same group. His name is Christopher. Christopher, go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us where you're from.
Sure. Thank you for having this beautiful opportunity to share and connect with you, and um, yeah, and you bringing these podcasts to the world so we can share our story. I'm a little nervous, just putting everything out there. And so, where am I coming from? My name is Christopher Montenegro. I am from originally San Mateo. Recently, about 4 years ago, moved to Santa Cruz. Been living here for 4 or 5 years now, and really loving this area, loving being connected to the forest and the ocean, and excited to share part of my story here.
What made you say yes to the call, to the invitation in the group chat? Like, hey guys, I'm doing this podcast. If anybody wants to share, what made you say yes?
What made me say yes is, to be honest with you, yeah, I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time for me to step out and to share my experiences, because I know that in sharing, it's an invitation for others to share theirs and to also to look at themselves. Um, so really, yeah, getting a chance to tell my story, I feel like I'm in a good position, and done a lot of revealing of who I really am the last 4 years. Really going hard and digging things up, and and I also am inspired by you and what you're doing, and feel like I too would like to host a podcast and start being more visible online. And so yeah, so if I could support my sister, and then also lean into my edge. It's edgy for me, and I'd like to live on my edge, and so yeah, so that's what's up.
That's amazing. Thank you for answering the call. And I think you starting a podcast and especially feeling like men will feel comfortable to sit with another male and share would be amazing and is just such like what we all need, like more sharing, more vulnerability, more being exposed.
Mm.
It's medicine. So thank you for being here today, brother, and um, ready to go over that edge and share some medicine and some wisdom with us.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah,
So
it's vulnerability is has been a big thing, and definitely has helped me to understand myself. And every time I get a chance now, I'm like, I'm going all in. At Remembrance, I was all in. I know I needed to move some things. I know I needed to be witnessed, and I knew that what was on the other side of that was so powerful. So anytime I get the chance now, I'm like, yes, let's do this.
heck yeah, thank you. So let's go ahead and take a couple breaths and land, and let's ask Spirit to guide this sacred conversation, and thank Christopher for being here with today. Let's just put our hands on our heart and let's take a good 5 breaths. And when we let them out, let's make some sound. Let that energy move. Let that
Come on.
uncomfortableness come out. Any blocks.
Oh.
Mm.
Oh.
Spirit, we ask that you
Oh.
will come in. We ask, Spirit, that you will guide the sacred conversation, that you will allow there to be a beautiful flow and an openness and a exposure and vulnerable that can touch someone and can help someone. We ask that you allow everything that needs to be felt, said, heard, seen, expressed will be. Thank you, Christopher, for being here today. Thank you for, we call in our guides, our guardians. We call in all of the elements to allow us to feel very comfortable and very ease in flow in this sharing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Alrighty, let's go right in.
Mhm.
So, Christopher, the intention of this podcast is to be very exposed and very vulnerable and to shed light onto those that are in moments of darkness that have no hope, and that we can touch somebody and give hope to others. So, I do want to ask you, what is your greatest betrayal or wound?
There's been several times I've been betrayed, but I'm going to talk about um, the one that influenced me the most was, and I find it kind of repeating and coming up more often, was the betrayal of my mother. Um, at an early age, I remember a time where my father had left, and I didn't really know. I was really young. I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I remember um, there were several nights where my mother would be crying, and and it was just a natural thing for me. I would wake up and I would hear her crying, and it was just really it was really getting to me, and just hearing it night after night. And I remember one night going out there. Um, I think her boyfriend, who was my stepfather, had just left, and so I went out there and I tried to console her, and then I just got the living shit kicked out of me, um, to the point where I blacked out. Like I didn't really can't remember too much. I just know that it was a very violent thing, and um, yeah, I didn't expect it at all. And at that point, I felt like my whole life had changed, and I had to really watch myself. And I mean, yeah, and I didn't feel like I could trust my mom. I think that I lost a lot of faith in my parents, and just became like a little man. Like I needed to take care of myself at that point, and didn't feel safe, or yeah. So that that was, I would say, the biggest betrayal that has affected my life as an adult, um, more than any other, because it's affected my relationship with women. So,
How is your relationship with your mom now?
um, so I have a relationship with her, but it's more like, it's more kind of at a distance. Um, I have forgiven her, and I've moved on, and I understand all of that from a different level now as an adult, and especially since I've been doing this internal work, I've come to see things in a different light. Um, but I still, I grew up as Jehovah Witness, and she's still in that faith, and I'm not. Um, so I don't feel fully accepted by her, and so because of that, I don't, I don't really I feel like she's my mother and gave birth to me, but I don't really feel connected to her. And I also don't hate her.
Right.
I don't wish her ill will in any way. As a matter of fact, I still have a lot of love for her. Um, but I don't really, there's something in me that's not, um, not really seeking to connect with her. And I think that's just where I am right now, and I'm not pushing her away. I'm not, trying to keep her away from me in any way, but I feel maybe that I'm still guarded in a way. And I've been kind of uncovering some of that stuff recently to feel safer in my body.
Wonderful. When you say you understand, can you talk about that? What is it that you understand now as you're older, where you were able to forgive her?
Sure. Well, my life had a lot of conflict, and there was a lot of things that went on that were. I grew up in a family of 10 with half siblings and six brothers and three sisters and some half siblings. And there was a lot of conflict. She wasn't emotionally available for me. Um, and I could see how now I've been able to gain, um, I would say, I've gained a lot of awareness of how that those situations that I used to feel victim to have helped me become more empowered because I could see that I've grown to be very resilient, very creative. Um, I can handle confrontation really well. Um, I can handle being uncomfortable, and yeah, so that's what I mean. Now I've been able to, in a time where I feel like, especially now, and particularly in this time with the election that just happened, there was so much polarity and a lack of being able to have a separate opinion or be different, and without there being some sort of um, argument or wanted to confront, um, or some projected feelings. And I am able to be grounded when that kind of energy comes at me. And I feel like it's because of the capacity that I've been able to um, hold as a young man and as a young boy from the conflict, from those situations that I felt abusive. Um, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Christopher. That's very vulnerable and that's very um, traumatizing. As a young man, and your mother is your protector, and we seek, safety in our parents and not being able to feel safe. Um, Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to share it. This it's been quite a journey with this particular wound because it showed up in my relationships, and I've been with women who I felt, in my opinion and in my experience, haven't quite resolved some of their own traumas or experiences. Um, and then in relationship with them, I've noticed, especially in this last relationship that I just got out of about, I don't know, 7 months ago or so, um, that I was enduring a lot of abusive, what so-called abusive. I don't like to use that word because I also know that, you know, I have my own experiences and I can be perceived as abusive, but the things that I've experienced in that relationship felt very much not in a um, empowered, being loving, being connected. And they did feel abusive. And as a matter of fact, there was some physical abuse or, um, yeah, I don't like using the word abuse at all, but there was some things that happened that I felt um, I allowed happen because I have endured and I have this great capacity because what I went through as a young kid that I could withstand, but I wasn't really able to notice that in until recently that oh my god, like this person is so angry all the time and I'm just dealing with this, and it's actually finally got to me because it was direct. It just started to drain me, and I started noticing that wow, I'm dealing like I'm allowing this, I'm allowing this, and it really a lot of it wasn't them. It was actually me. It was me allowing it, and not like noticing that wow, this is actually a very toxic pattern, and because I felt comfortable in a toxic environment and I had the skin to like to be in that. You know, I developed the resilience to handle that, but I don't want to do that anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm like letting go of that every day, and it's quite a practice to try to let that go, to allow my body to relax after so much of that. You know, I grew up in a big family and finally got kicked out of the house when I was 18, and then got married at 21. Wasn't ready for that, thought I was. Um, Went through this whole unhealthy pattern with my former wife where I was cheating and all of my traumas were playing out, all my patterns were playing out with her, and had twin girls. And then from there it was like I started to see myself because I knew my daughters were going to be looking for a man like me ultimately when they got old enough. They're going to look to whoever they're going to try to date is somebody that I am going to influence. You know, I have influence over them, and that was a very humbling realization. And I didn't like who I was at that particular time, and um, so yeah, I had to I actually started changing my direction because I knew that what I was doing in my life wasn't working, and I didn't want to continue the cycle that I had gone through. You know, the trauma and the lack of being able to have emotional intelligence, and you know, um, to connect in a healthy way, to have a healthy relationship. I wanted that to end with me, or to, yeah, I wanted all of that unhealthy patterning to end with me. And so I started making conscious choices to look at myself and move in another direction.
Thank you for coming clean and like admitting like there was infidelity and I didn't want my daughters to choose a man like me, of who I was, how you were operating at that time. That's very brave of you to expose yourself that way right now and admit that. So thank you for that. And how did you what was the turning point for you in that situation, when you decided that you wanted to be better and be an example?
Well, I always felt like I wanted to be an example, actually, even as a young boy. You know, I went because I was a Jehovah Witness. I started reading the Bible at a young age, and I started seeing, like, I started comparing my life to the Bible and the things that I was getting from the congregation. And I noticed something was off. Like, it wasn't matching what my parents were saying that they wanted me to do, you know?
Mhm.
And so I I knew that I had to be the best for my brothers and sisters. I wanted to be exemplary. There was an internal drive within me. I wanted to be exemplary, and I don't even know like why that is. I feel like part of it has to do with my birth order and being the oldest male. But I have this inner drive to actually be exemplary, but I was picking up habits that I didn't really know that were healthy, because they just were. Like my stepfather, I felt like he was a womanizer, and actually there was a lot of things that he was doing that was very unhealthy that he was showing us.
Mm,
So, when all that cheating and all that stuff was going on, it wasn't ringing that this is a bad thing to do. It just was like, oh, this is just a thing that men do, you know. Um, but to I would say that the biggest catalyst for my transformation was going to my daughters were one, and then uh, going to a Sacred Sons event about 4 or 5 years ago. Um, Convergence 5, actually. My ex partner, um, she gave it to me as a gift, and it was the first time I've ever done any men's work. I didn't even know what men's work was, actually. She's like, "Oh, you should go to this. This thing would be really. I think you would really like it, you know." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, it sounds cool. What are we doing?" And I was thinking, I had this perception that I was going to be like shooting arrows with men and like hanging around by the campfire and singing kumbaya and you know kind of laughing around and fighting or whatever. I had no idea that going to that event was going to change me forever. Like um it was the first time in my life that I was held
mm,
by men. I was in the space of men that I could feel an embodied trust with. I felt respect. I felt safe with these men. I felt like they could hold me, and I was always holding. I felt like I was always holding everybody else, and never really had the chance to fall together. And so at that Sacred Sons event, um, Kevin Walton and Jay Mack, and there were some other really great men in that group. I didn't even know what I was doing. They're just like, okay, step into the circle, and I did, and I just the stuff wanted to move. Like
mm,
it was time for me to like really let go of the things that I was holding, and I felt that in their presence, and I felt that that was the time. And so there was a lot that I was holding at that time, um, because there was just so many other things that I could talk about that I don't think we have time for. But I had got a divorce, or my ex-wife wanted to get a divorce, and she ended up taking legal custody of my children and keeping me away from them. And there was so much pain that was coming with that, because I really loved my daughters and I was with them for 6 years. Their first years I stayed at home with them, and I worked on my had my own business, but I put a lot of time and devotion into them. And so when I went to that convergence, I was like holding on to so much, and it just felt so good to finally let it go, and it felt so good to be held by other men and to be seen. And it was like the most profound experience that I had until that up to this point, actually, because it's actually the set me on this trajectory of where I am now. I had no idea, no concept of what men's work was. I didn't know that existed at all, and I'm grateful to my last partner for gifting me that, because I feel like she saw something and she was like, here, and I actually felt it's interesting because I had felt in that. So I went to that. She gave me that gift, and I had stepped out of my relationship and was with another woman, but didn't tell her. And so I remember being at that event and feeling like, oh my God, like I know that this is going to change my life. Like there was like this divine download I got.
yeah.
This is changing my life forever. And what an amazing gift that I just got, that the feminine actually brought to me. This partner and this woman that sees, there's something in her that sees something in me, and is like, here, and so for and I knew that I had stepped out on my relationship with her, and I had done the relational training with Kevin Hartwell. I had done the pillar with Kevin Walton and the creational pillar, and so I could see my misalignments like clear as day. I could see where I was misaligned, and a lot of it was in integrity, and a lot of it
Mhm.
was most of it was integrity, like stepping out and and cheating on my ex-wife, cheating on my girlfriends. It was like a pattern that was just constantly playing out. And I knew from that point, getting this gift, like it was a felt sense. I just felt so loved. I felt so like my life is changing. This is what I needed. Like it was such a profound experience. And I knew that I needed to get right with myself and also with the feminine and with my partner at the time. And so I remember like I knew that I needed to go home and like make right with all those relations. So I ended up going home and I had to like come clean with her. And we didn't have like it took like a whole week for us to finally have time to do this little ceremony and like be able to be together. And I was going to tell her. And in that week, I kept getting this voice saying, "Oh, you don't have to do that. You don't have to tell her. Just don't do it anymore, and everything will be fine. She doesn't have to know." And it was so interesting that I was getting like it was like my old self, It's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, don't. And I was so committed. I knew I had to do it, and that was like a one of the biggest edges for me because I have never been that honest before with any of my partners. And so I did a little ceremony and we had a conversation and I just told her. And 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 she was very accepting and it was like that was a very powerful transformative experience for me. And from that, from Convergence 5, I have not stepped out on any of my relationships. I am like just climbing the level of integrity within myself, constantly striving for more. And I'm on a new path. Like I am on a completely new path from that time till now. I I'm like just creating my way right now and it feels so fucking amazing. And yeah. So
Fuck yes, brother.
yeah,
It's not
it feels
easy to
so
come
good.
clean. It's not easy to
Mm,
like fully expose the dirtiness that that we are sometimes, and it's it was coming from your the example of your father and the wound with the feminine, and what a beautiful thing that you were able to cross that uncomfortableness and walk through the fire and come out and have some grace like upon you with her being willing and open. And what a beautiful thing, what a beautiful thing. I'm sure that was a beautiful healing moment for you.
yeah, so huge, so huge. And I felt, like it was, and I still feel like the, it's not a struggle anymore because I've developed so much muscle around this new being, and um, yeah, it really feels so amazing to be, rid of that, and to be able to see it from here now and just look at it and also give it love, and understand, yeah, just to understand it from this level of not shaming myself either, and not shaming them and just understanding that this is part of my journey.
What a beautiful recovery, like hope
Mm,
that not all men are have to be uh have infidelity or unloyalty in their relationships forever.
mhm.
you know
Yeah.
what a how you rehabilitated, that's like literally like a rehabilitation, like a sobriety chip. Like, hey, it's been years, and moving forward, I haven't relapsed again.
Mhm.
That's such a celebration, brother. And I just want to celebrate you and see you and thank you for sharing that, because that's not easy. And thank you for giving women and men out there hope that
Mhm.
there is healing um from that.
Thank you. Yeah, I in this past relationship as well, I've noticed that my pattern was like to run away. It's like, okay, this isn't working out. Now it's time. Oh, there's a nice woman over here, let's go see what's up over here. And in my last relationship, the same one that gave me this gift, she wasn't emotionally available. This is something I discovered more, as towards the end of the relationship. But I remember seeking love and trying to get connection from her, and ju- her not being available. And then for the first time, rather than me going outside and just doing this thing, I was actually bringing it up to her and saying, "Hey, you know what? I don't feel like I'm being met physically. I would actually like to go outside of our relationship to do this." And to me, that was also stepping into, like, leaning into an edge, because
Mhm.
it was very uncomfortable. It's not something that I even wanted, but it was in alignment with my integrity, and I felt like that's the honorable way to do it, and maybe she would meet me there. Maybe she would start understanding, but I'm not going to just step out and like, go this other way and get back in that. I wanted to maintain my integrity. And so that was really edgy for me to do as well. And I'm proud of myself for holding that, for like giving myself that permission and asking for what I wanted, rather than, and that was new. That was like a whole new muscle, you know, to develop, to just be like, okay, I'm not feeling comfortable, and I've exhausted these. I've communicated what I wanted. I've been doing this, and now this is. I feel like I need to do this, but I'm gonna go here first. And it ended up not working out, but I stayed in integrity, and that felt right. And that was also part of like the unfolding of this situation isn't working out. This relationship isn't really suiting me.
What a brave thing, when even it's not, it doesn't feel comfortable to still be honest. So many of us women do it too, when things aren't working out and it's uncomfortable, and we're not able to voice or just be straight up, and we do. And we've all been there, where we look elsewhere, or maybe if I found someone that was less or more of this, then it would be the solving to the problem. And I love how you were like, no, let me keep aligning with my integrity. Let me keep going inside, like, where is this coming from? What is this, within me?
Yeah.
The power of the moment of when we say, like, no more. It's so it's so like, all we have to do is just decide, and then it's like, woof, things come in for us on our behalf. Our guides, our guardians, spirit, the feeling in you of not wanting to go outside, like, this strong desire in you that was not okay no more with doing that pattern. What a beautiful thing. And the moment that you were able to say, like, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Hmm. Yeah. Mhm.
That gives a lot of people out there hope.
Mhm.
The things that you are sharing, Christopher, and I can't wait to hear the men's podcast or whoever you invite on, because it's going to be just exactly what the world needs.
Mm.
We need you. We need men like you that are willing to go be uncomfortable, be honest, and find out, like, hey, whoa, I have no integrity. How do I
Mhm.
find integrity? Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. And in all of this, I've learned that ultimately a lot of the betrayal was me betraying myself. And so, um, that's something that I, was relatively new to me. It's easy for me to just go outside and be like, oh yeah, and then, I'm out of integrity there. But actually, I was out of integrity within myself, and I was crossing my internal boundaries, and I didn't even get that till about 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and then yeah, and then it was like, wow, I don't want to go back to that. Like, you know how much work it took me to get to here? Like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. That's not that's done. I'm done with that. The other thing about, and I just want to share this for other men or anybody who may be listening. When you align with your truth and you're done, and you come from your deepest knowing, like, maybe there's some fears that you have about their reaction or whatever. But I actually notice that what happens when I come from that voice, the person who's on the other side actually, it doesn't all my worst fears don't even manifest, because I'm actually being fully open and vulnerable. And there's something magical that happens when I'm allowed to share, and I'm opening myself up. It's like it's a mirror. And I've noticed this in
Mhm.
relationship. Relationship is a sacred mirror. And so when I'm doing that, it's actually it's actually opening them up. And it didn't work out with this partner, but at that particular time that I expressed this, and I went into that, I could feel her actually open as well, and not coming at me with all of my projected fears. Those weren't real. They were just all this imagination of my own fear of bringing that out. And so, just for the listeners, it doesn't have to be your worst projected fears are just living in your head most of the time, or mine were. And when I tapped in and was able to just really come from the heart, it's like all guards are down. I'm open, and those just don't manifest. At least for me, they didn't. Like, oh my God, get out of my house, or I'm not gonna. You're such a terrible person. Like, all these different things just being completely rejected. That wasn't the case.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's huge.
Mhm.
That's huge for people out there listening that are afraid to come clean and be exposed and be honest and operate under integrity. That it's scary. And thank you
And
for bringing that up.
yeah, you're welcome. And it's not even about that. It's just like, well, what feels right in my body? Like, even if I'm, what's going to feel right is my deepest truth. And regardless of even if those fears manifested, I get to live with this, and I get to live in this feeling of being light and in love to myself, and open, and not hiding anything. And that feels amazing. So.
That's true living. That's true living. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so let's see, where are we at? Okay, here we go. So what is Christopher, what is a story that um if we didn't already touch on this, if maybe you want to touch on another one, what is a story that you told yourself that you believed for a long time?
mm, that I would say that I hmm, that I'm not a good man, that I'm not an exemplary man, that I'm not um, capable. Um, and this is something that I feel that, despite me turning around things, it's like a battle within myself, and I could feel this within my brothers too. Um, not being worthy enough, not doing enough. Um, those are the stories um, that I still feel haunted with even today. And what I do now, and what I've realized is I am this divine connected being, brother, father, um, and I'm making thousands of decisions every day that are, and I don't always get everything right, but I and I know other men because I have a men's group here, and I've been in this men's group community for a long time, or for the last 5 years. But I know even out in life, when I'm not in those presents, there are millions of men and women right now that are making decisions based on not just what they want in their life, but what they want for the world and the community, but they're not giving themselves credit for it. There's so many decisions that we make daily that we're like, okay, let's think about this. And it's like a subconscious thing. I believe that um yeah, so for me it's illuminating that and bringing that to light. Like I just went to remembrance, not just because I wanted to heal my wounds, because I wanted to be the embodiment. I wanted to be um stronger. I wanted to be more authentic. I wanted to be connected to my heart more, and bringing those back, bringing myself back is the invitation I feel in with others to for them to illuminate themselves as well. And so for me, it's shining light on what I am, like what I'm doing, celebrating that constantly and letting go of what I'm not, you know. And I'm so grateful to my last relationship because I kept getting this reflection from her, you're not this, you're not that, you're not this. And I realized that I was actually starting to buy that story
Mm.
because I was never really telling myself what I am. And I needed to make it a practice to start telling myself what I am, and started to love myself in the way that I wanted to feel it externally. And I went to town. I just started doing all these things, affirmations, Um, but I realized in all of that as well that I uncovered that, oh my God, I've been disciplined to taking care of my body. That's an act of love. Like I've been disciplined on how I eat. That's an act of love. I've been disciplined on um, eating, or what I'm taking in, the music I'm listening to, trying my best to be or doing my best to be a good father all the time. Like there's just so many things that I was doing that I was never like giving myself credit for. And I feel like that's like the human spirit within all of us. I feel that we all have that. And if you took away government, if you took away these control systems, people would see that. They could tap into that themselves. And usually in my experience, I've seen that in like catastrophes. We hear about these things that happen, like the for me, the 89 earthquake. That was a big one in San Francisco. Um, Communities came together. People came together because they have that program within them, you know. And unfortunately, it took something like a big earthquake for that to come out. But the thing is we have it all within us, and it's just, to me, uncovering what's on top of the beauty and the magic that we are. And so that's what I've been giving myself permission to do, is like excavating and just allowing myself my brightness to shine, but celebrating it too. Not just excavating, celebrating, like celebrating the goodness, and because excavation, and I think you talked about this on one of your podcasts with I think it was Alyssa.
Mhm.
Like I could keep doing that. I could do that the rest of my life. But there comes a time where like I've gotten to the point now where I feel like I can own my shit if I need to. I can hold space if I hurt your feelings. You know, I can do the internal thing and look inward if I have to, and when I need to, and and it's time to celebrate. You know, if I hurt somebody's feelings, or if I, call me out on it, and I'm gonna be able to hold that and look at that. But to constantly, to me, I've done so much excavating and looking at what I'm not, and it's time to
Mhm.
celebrate what I am. And so that's what's alive for me more recently than anything. Is like it's time to celebrate. Like I've done a lot of heavy lifting. I've done a lot of excavating. I've lived through a lot of trauma and things, and a lot of messes that I created. And now it's time to celebrate and to like shine. And and I feel like, to me, I want to do that because I want to be the embodiment of what I want out there. And by me being that embodiment, I know that it's an invitation for others to do the same. So living authentically, connecting to myself, and just being that, I feel like is permission for others.
Thank you for that sacred wisdom. Celebrate. Not everything has to be so deep and dark and digging in the holes. Like, at some point, give ourselves permission to celebrate,
Mm,
give ourselves more credit. Thank you for that.
mm,
That is such a beautiful, beautiful piece of wisdom. Thank you for that wisdom, Christopher. I think a lot of us are so you know also in that of like, how much more of this shadow and this mirror and this digging do I gotta do? And it's like we don't realize, like, hey, it's time for rest. It's
mhm,
time to be. It's time to travel. It's time to do nothing.
mm,
Just celebrate. And I
mhm,
feel like that's what remembrance was, for a lot of us. Like, it was so like deep and like so meaningful, but in every day there was like this celebration.
mhm.
What was
Exactly.
remembrance? What was Seattle for you? Like, what was the tough part? What
Mhm,
was it that you had to walk through? What
mhm,
were you resisting, or what was uncomfortable?
mhm.
And how'd you feel afterwards you pushed through those situations?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Wow. So I had signed up with my partner to be there together with her at the time that came through. And I've been waiting for remembrance to come around for a long time, because my last partner and I, we were doing sacred intimacy work, so we were being coached in this whole sacred intimacy process, healing our inner child wounds and being able to hold space for each other and all of that. And it's kind of the work that we both wanted to do. um, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Several reasons that it didn't work out. Um, but she was going to be there, and I was still devoted to going, because I felt like even if she's not going to be there, this is what I want to do. I actually want to do this container. I want to bring this container to my community, because for me, this is the one that I feel that has the sacredness of the masculine and the feminine partnership has been lost.
Mm,
Not lost, but hasn't been held sacred. Okay. And I want to bring the sacredness of that back. And I want to hold those spaces so that we can do what we did there. When I remember, there was a moment where we were looking, the women were on one side and we were on the other. And uncle was saying, look through them. You'll see their grandmother, you'll see their sister, you'll see their mother, you'll see their great grandmother. And I was present to the energy there. And I was like, wow, like my grandfather, all of them are here too, and we're here, and look at us, and we're just looking at each other. And I felt like it was like staring into like a whole nother creature, and just like being curious and being just, wow, look at the wonder here. Like, and then also the one that was sitting, me, my body, was the one that was like, this ends here. Like the lack of integrity, the womanizing, all of these things are ending with me, and I'm holding this. And so I saw the woman in front of me was the warrior. She was the one standing for her generations, and I was doing the same thing, and we were just standing there in honor and really present to okay, this is ending right now. And my I so I got off track here, but my
No, thank you for that visual, because that is like so important, because so many of our ancestors were standing behind us, and so many of the practices just like rejoicing
uh-huh.
and being free, these chains just breaking, of
Mhm.
the a way that we were able to face each other and voice and hold each other. They've just been waiting for this for decades and centuries and in lifetimes.
Mhm.
So thank you for that beautiful visual, because it's very important, because that's the reality of the work that we're doing,
Mhm.
is that we're doing it for 7 generations behind us and 7 generations in front of us. So
Mhm.
it's so beautiful that you're able to tap into that vision
Mhm.
of this is the reality of it.
And in the moment, I felt it. Like it was like my hairs were standing in my back. I'm like, whoa. Just the realization of that and the awareness and being in it while being aware of it was just like, whoa. This is like this is rippling across. What we're doing is rippling out right now. And so anyways, going back to the original question, my partner was going to be there, and we hadn't, I didn't feel like I got closure in my relationship, and I was looking externally for her to give me that. I was hoping that my expectation was that there would be some kind of closure, because we had done so much work together, and there was a lot of love, and there was a lot that we were breaking through, like we were doing it, and that just didn't happen, and it actually was like so not what I thought the breakup would be. And I was really hurting, and I was waiting, like I knew I would get my chance to move that energy there. And I was like, for the months and the weeks leading up to it, I was like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to be with her there. Like I even told her not to come because she's can't keep men sacred, and she's not keeping me sacred. And I was like really pissed off. And then I got there, and like the first exercise that we did, like that was it. Like Barry, or our brother,
Mm-hmm.
like his process was like permission. Like I just felt like I felt his grief, and now that I felt that, I felt the permission myself, and I just let myself go into it. And I was able to really move that. But there was so much that was going on because she was still there, and it just felt like things weren't resolved. I remember when the ceremony came, when the men came, we came from the forest, and you guys were doing your dance, and all of that magic and opening, and I was hoping that she would be able to meet me on that line. Not that we were going to be able to be partners again, or like, you know, but that we can see each other in love again, and that we can just get back to that. And I was hoping to see her there. And I remember going to the line, and I wanted to show that I would be there. And I stepped up to that line, and I like was looking for her, and I was just like hoping that she would show up, because for me that that event wasn't about necessarily being in partnership together. It was about healing the wound within myself, so that I can connect, with the feminine. And I'm um and so yeah, she didn't show up. And for a second I felt like I wanted to deflate, like I was going to go into that deflated self, and the little boy that was like rejected and hurt. And I became aware of that, and I stepped back out of the whole thing. And I had some brothers come up to me who were like, who witnessed that, and they were really cool because they came up to me and they just were like, hey, they gave me a pat, they looked at me, and then they just let me be. And I was with that, and I allowed myself to feel that. And and then I just was like, okay, this is what's up. This is how it is, and it's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I showed up, and I showed up for myself. And um and I felt a sense of shame, actually, at that particular moment. Like, what am I doing? This is so embarrassing. This so embarrassing to go out on the line. Like, I just went on the line. I put my hands up at one point, and I was like, because I didn't know if she would or she wouldn't, but I was definitely going to show up there. And um and then I remember going up to her after, and she said, like, what was that? Like, it was like, and I made an excuse. I was like, oh, it was whatever. And I didn't really speak my heart. I didn't really speak my truth about it because I actually felt shame for doing it. And anyways, to me, the whole journey in remembrance was powerful because I had to utilize my tools that I've been learning on self-love and hold myself up. And and I was still like allowing myself to be vulnerable too, so that was edgy, you know. Um but remember, it's also like one of the things that came to light in all of that was that I had shut down. I had this realization that I had been shutting down in my partner when she's asking me to hold space. Prior to that, um, and it came from me reaching out to my mother, and that didn't come to light until remembrance. Like, me reaching out and trying to console her and getting beat. sh- Now, when my partner was sharing things, this was happening, and it led up to the breakup. But I wasn't always able to hold that space for her. I felt defensive because I felt my little boy coming up and wanting to guard myself and wanting to hide. And because the things that she was coming at me with was so, there was so much power in it, and not all of it was her in her aligned self. There was a lot of stuff that was coming up behind for her as well. And so for me, that's what came up there for me. It was like, wow, this realization that, oh my God, like, okay, I reached out to my mom to hold her and was super vulnerable and beat for that. And then my partner's been trying to wanted me to hold her. And there's times that I showed up magically. Like, it wasn't all the time, but there were times where it was like, wow, I just gotta run. Like, I can't take this, but I wasn't actually drawing those boundaries in the most empowering way. And so that remembrance shined that light on for me. And um and that to me is huge because, like, if I was in my relationship or in a relationship going forward, now I know I can say, hey, look, you know what, I need a timeout. My system is actually feeling this way, and I'm not sure if I could hold this right now. And you know just give me some time, and I'm happy to hear you. But like, right now, I'm just feeling this thing, and I need to deal with this, rather than getting defensive or just wanting to walk away. um, I think, to me, it's sharing like that I feel like a scared little boy right now. That's who I am, and I need time to be with that. I need time to be with myself and feel safe again. And I love you, and I'm happy to hold that, but I need this space for myself. And I wasn't able to do that then. So that awareness to me is a huge one. And it's a gift that came through that channel.
That is your medicine, brother.
Mm.
That is how you became a medicine man. Was seeing that boy, realizing something needs to stop, and showing up for yourself. The beautiful thing you said when you showed up, but you were not embraced, but you were like, I showed up for myself.
Mm.
That is your medicine, is working with the little boy, showing other men how to heal the little boy and bring him and address the abuse and all of the examples that our parents give us sometimes that are not the best, that we just absorb. And that's a beautiful a story of all this that you shared. Is just it's just revealing how you became your own healer.
Mm. I'm going to take a deep breath into that one.
Let's
Thank you for that reflection.
thank you for being so vulnerable and exposed
Mm.
and very honest, and not thinking about how am I going to sound, how am I going to look. Just, I need to be honest.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Mm.
Because a lot of women are listening right now and they're like, there's hope.
Mm.
There's hope in our relationships. There's hope in our future. There's hope in our future relationships. There's hope for our fathers, our brothers. You know, there's hope for ourselves, because a lot of us have also been abused as children. I see you, brother. I see you. Like, I love that you were like, hey guys, I'm offering this like sovereign masculine, like, workshop. And I was like, yes,
Mm.
yes,
Thank you.
because we need, I don't know about you, but for me, like, I need someone that went through the shit to help
Mm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
like, I need someone that knows
Mm-hmm.
too. That's the person, that's who's my teacher. And what a beautiful offering that you're giving, Christopher, is to guide these men to those uncomfortable spaces and places of accessing their little boy and finding and excavating and then learning how to celebrate.
Mm. Thank you. And what I hear in that is what you need, and what I feel like I need as well, is authenticity. It's to me, it's the greatest gift. Like,
Mhm.
to see you are this beautiful connection of all these different energies, and you have this aura and this way about you, and that's what I'm connecting with. And and um and I find that, like, yeah, it's it's about the embodied experience and hearing and witnessing and exploring that, and being okay with others in their experience as well. And I love authenticity, and I love people who can share, and like, yeah. And that's why I love Sacred Sons, and Sacred Sons has changed my life so much, being able to be in those spaces, and you see, we've both witnessed and we're part of that. And it's just it's so amazing. Like, it was very difficult to get back to regular life, because we're connecting and we're seeing each other in such a powerful way. And now we get to we get to come back to our communities, right? And every time I come back is it's I've been getting better at it because I I realized that after a couple of events where I was driving home and like all these judgments are coming to me. Like I'm at a stoplight in the shuttle and this guy's got his music blasting. I'm looking at a 7-Eleven over there. I'm looking at a McDonald's. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And I started realizing that, I have the ability, I can change my capacity of compassion and start stepping into that more as well. And these are my brothers and sisters, and it helps me, but it still isn't easy, you know, to come back and integrate. It still isn't easy because presence is, to me, the one of the biggest things in the sacred sense events that I love is presence. Nobody's on the phone. We're not watching sports. We're not drinking beer. We're talking about very powerful things, and people want to share their gifts all the time, like all the time, you know. Um, God, I was at a fire at Remembrance, and I just sat down. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna kind of wander around and just go and allow things to unfold. And I sat by the ocean, and these brothers and sisters came, and they started playing their own songs and their own music, and just blew my mind. Like I was getting this very private performance from my brothers and sisters that was so beautiful and profound. Like, I mean, it was so amazing. And anyways, I really love the vulnerability of all of the people who are willing to do that and step into that.
Absolutely. And I love how you, in your integration, in your returning, you seen the opportunity,
Mm.
like the opportunity to be of service and give an offering for those in need.
You know, it's also, I also know like this shadow part of myself is can be a procrastinator, can get caught up in the I'm not worthy, I can't do this, and who are you to do this? And it's what I'm learning is it's kind of a product of, or part of not having a father, or my father walking out. And for me, I have to like I want to lean into those edges of uncomfort. And so for me, like I knew that the integration was important, and I didn't know if they were of Sacred Sons was offering it, but I wanted to offer it to our group and start taking leadership over that, because I know from my experience now that like walking away from this is tough to reintegrate into society, to my community, into my family. And I wanted to get rolling on that. And rather than being, um, complaining about nobody's doing this, and also it was a chance for us to, I felt like, to provide a smaller container so that more people could be heard and express themselves. Because I know the container, I have felt when I've been on those bigger calls that I couldn't do that, or I wouldn't be able to speak my voice. So having a smaller container was that. But for me, it's putting myself on, living on the edge of uncomfort. And I have been doing this work long enough now that I need to like get out there. And I still feel resistance to doing that. I still see my shadows that are like, no, you can't do this, or who are you? And I know that that's bringing me closer to freedom by stepping out. And I'm trusting now, trusting in Great Spirit, and trusting in my higher self, that it's all unfolding, and it's all perfect. Even if there's two people, or you know three people that show up to an event, no matter who shows up, there's always something there, and there's always medicine, and I trust that.
One of my teachers told me you can't sit and hoard your
Mm.
gifts and your medicine and the things, how far you've come. You're never going to be perfect. So who are you to not share with those that are in need.
Mhm.
And I love that because, you know, look at all the work that you've been doing. We're still a work in progress, but there's still so much wisdom that you have to share with some that are just starting their journey, you
Mhm.
know? So it's like you have a lot of wisdom to share to those that don't know even where to start or
Mhm.
how to even get honest, you know? So I'm excited for you,
Thank you.
you know, of the masculine, the sovereign masculine, and the new offering with you and Rachel. I'm so excited for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for being, you know, stepping forward. Thank you for stepping forward.
Mhm.
And there's never going to be a perfect time. There's, you know, and for me, I was like, I don't have a podcast, I don't have a mic, but I was like, I have a computer
Mhm.
and I have it in my heart. So
Mhm.
here it is. And it
Mhm.
was just so like, I'm telling you, we just got to make those little baby steps because, you know, we can't hoard.
Mhm.
We can't hoard
Yeah.
the beautiful that we've been experiencing. Like, I want to just share it with the world. I want everyone to be able to voice and
Mhm.
find that healing in using the voice. I think that's been huge for me. So I want to share that, you know, with all of you.
That
And
can I just say something real quick about that? So I've been doing I did this embodied king container, and it talks about the archetypes, and I'm holding that space now for the men. And we've gone over the magician, and the magician in its fullness is able to transmute and to turn those stories into gold, right? And I don't know what it is in the feminine archetypes, but perhaps it's a medicine woman. I don't know, but
they're
that's
all the
what.
same.
Okay, so that's what we do. We turn those things into gold, and the shadow of the magician is one who can one hoard the information and not give it out because for whatever reason it's a power thing, and then the other is what was I going to say? Basically, we're we we do at some point when we're fully embodied as the magician, we will share our gifts fully with the world, and it's an important archetype because we could use it for good. We could use it and make these stories or share our stories and our traumas and the things, and it's an invitation for others to look at theirs and to find the gold in there as well. Or we can hold it, and that's the shadow magician. So uh, the archetype work has really helped me to see myself and see where I need to the things I need to illuminate and to work on, because I could see also that not giving my gift is also being the shadow magician. By me not stepping in fully, I'm not really doing the world a service. I'm not doing myself a service. And so yeah, the magician archetype is really a really powerful one, and it's important to also see the shadows in that, because not just shame ourselves, but to see, oh wow, like I do actually feel like jealous and envious sometimes of the men who are actually out there doing that. I feel that within myself. That's real. Why is that? Huh? It's because you're not doing it. And so some other things. So what can I do about that? And it's just so the archetype work has been very powerful for me, because I could see these parts getting illuminated, and then when I'm honest, I'm able to be with that. Wow, okay, that's that shadow archetype is me too.
Yeah,
And
I felt the same thing, and I'm sure you also felt that before you started, you know, offering services to men of, am I worthy? I'm not ready.
mhm,
You know, this is not going to be, you know, what other men are, how it looks, how they looks, you know, over there, and it doesn't need to be,
yeah.
you know.
And it's not about us. That's the thing. That's like the thing. When I get to it, my last partner was the one who was pointing that out to me at some point. She's like, "It's not about you, Chris."
It's not.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's wow." that just relieved all that pressure. It's
Right?
not about me. It's just what's coming through me. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And for others that don't have nobody that went through the shit to ask questions and walk them through how I did it.
mhm,
That's a beautiful service that you are going to be to the men and the world and the people that you encounter is this is how I did it.
mhm,
And being a beautiful guide to the water, to the pasture, to the greener side of life, of living, and the freedom in that.
mm.
Let's see. So what are some life lessons that you recently have been discovering or going through?
Mm. Life lesson. I think the one that's really um yeah, alive right now is relaxing. Um in my relationship, my last relationship, I was kind of in fight or flight. I was I was trying to save my relationship, trying to save my children, trying to save my life, kind of really in like this fight or flight mode, and not really being effective at any of it. And I've been giving myself permission to relax and to receive. And I'm finding actually I'm doing that in nature. I shared with you before the call that I just came back from the forest, and I do this every day where I do a hike, I do a cold plunge, I do breath work, and I do a hape ceremony. And I just allow myself to feel and hear the water. And by doing that, I have been things are coming up, and I'm allowing myself to feel them and see what's there, and it's really profound. I feel like I've been doing it so long now for since remembrance. Actually, I've made this a practice that things are really like there's some things that I haven't felt, and they're coming up, and for the first time, I'm just feeling them. I'm not making a story about it, but I'm just like, okay, wait, this is pain. This feels really dark, and I don't like this. And oh, just transmute it and go. It's gonna be good. But I don't do that. I'm like, I'm safe right here, and the
Mm,
forest is holding me, and the forest is like, just be with it. It's not so scary. Just be with it. Just be with it. And I just sit with it. And sometimes there's tears that come, and I don't put a story on it. I just am being with it and allowing it to be, allowing myself to fully feel it. And I noticed that my body's relaxing, and my goal in all of this was to open creative channels so that I can start delivering my gifts, but coming from a place of wholeness rather than I need to have a job because I need to pay this bill. I need to do this because I need to take care of my daughters. Like those are all to me coming from not my highest self, like not connected to the truest authentic version of what I actually am. And so it's been giving myself permission to receive.
mm,
Um, and our sister Anaya, do you remember Anaya?
mhm.
I saw her in Shasta on my first leg of like kind of like opening myself up, just going on a trip, no responsibility, nowhere to be, but just letting go of all of that and just being with me and being with nature and relaxing, right? And Anaya told me something really powerful. She's like, sometimes others can hold, sometimes you need to fly, and others can anchor it, that will be the anchors and allow you to fly. And sometimes they need to fly, and you may be able to hold them. And that really resonated to me. And so I've been giving myself permission to fly. And when I say fly, like just not being in the mentality of I need to do this and I need to do that, but to like let myself explore, what am I? What am I? What am I? What am I here for? Who am I? Beyond the things that I know and the things that I've experienced, and like trying to relax into that. And it's been really powerful because I feel my nervous system relaxing now. And now I feel like I'm actually able to see things more objectively, less judgment, less needing to do or whatever. And so I'm excited because this is where I want to create from. Like whether it's, even if I'm going back to work or doing whatever, I want to come from here. I don't want to come from I need to go here. Oh, it's 12 o'clock. I need to do this thing. Um, I want to come from the deepest place of wholeness, and I think that it's still a journey and it's still unfolding. But I think that, and I hope that people who are listening to this and others, who are connected, because I know that we're all connected no matter what, and I see things actually happening, that where these energies are actually moving through us. We are nature, and nature's asking this of me, and I'm not the only one. We're all nature, beyond the clothes that we put on and the car that we drive and the house that we live in. We forget that. um and I see it happening actually all over, where like even with this last election, I see people, there's something happening where people are asking and wanting more. And I feel like it's nature is moving through us, and it wants more, and it's going, okay, well, this is not really working, let's move this other way potentially. That's my story of it. And allowing,
Thin
yeah.
and
And
drawing us to those elements, the
totally.
water, the mountain, lighting a candle even in your home.
Hmm.
That's powerful for me when I'm feeling depleted. I light a candle and everything just starts to like move. I'm crying, I'm moving, I'm stretching, I'm like releasing. And the elements are just so magical.
Hmm.
That beautiful opening that Kevin gave us of his wording and his poetry, of
Hmm.
the elements and the directions, and I was just like, this is my dig.
Hmm.
And I really feel the most calm, like you said, the nervous system, and the most um in my element, in the elements, you know
Yeah.
and they're
You
really
know,
calling us back.
it's interesting, the different elements. So I went all the way up north where it's green and lush. But we stayed in the Olympic Peninsula, where that place was just so amazing and sacred and so grounded and connected, right? Lots of heart energy. Green is the heart. There's green, lush green everywhere, right? And then I go from there to Shasta, which is the same. There's a lot of beautiful, powerful energy there. And then wanted to go somewhere where it would be warmer this time of year, and I ended up going to Joshua Tree. And oh my goodness, Joshua Tree is a beautiful place, but it was like the lower chakra energy I felt. I felt that it was actually more of a death and like a shadows, like you're seeing. I got to see my shadows, all of my judgments, all of my sides that wanted to hide, like they just are there, right in front of my face. And it's such an interesting thing to be with. Like I did a mushroom journey out there, and I was like, wow. I'm like I was feeling scared, I was feeling dark, I was feeling all these energies. It was a very dark, cold place, but it also gave me the chance to actually go into that, and be with it and to see it as, wow, this is also part of me. And it was really powerful. But yes, that, and it was and it was beautiful in its own way. It wasn't the lush green heart energy, but it also was very important for me to feel, because it's part of me, and a very healthy, important part. Transformation, moving through the shadows. So
Absolutely. We're going to wrap it up with two more quick questions. And I just, let's see. Thank you for everything, Christopher. Like, this conversation has flowed so beautifully, and the things that you felt, the call to like let me share about that, or can I say thank you for listening,
Mm.
because those were really some really golden nuggets and
Mhm.
some really pieces of wisdom that that I'm so grateful for you for sharing, because those are the pieces that people out there need to feel and hear. And thank you for leading by example and offering your services. And we'll just wrap up quickly with a couple more stuff. So what is a vision that you would like to see come to life?
Mm. Well, I would love to see spaces where people are connecting again. You know, I would love to see cafes get rid of Wi-Fi. I would love to see people talking and having coffee. Um, I would love to see people communicating and connecting face to face once again. I would love to see the children doing that. Um, yeah, I would love to see us connecting again and being present with each other like we have witnessed and we have seen in Sacred Sons. You know, if it's there, it's could be everywhere. We all have it. And so I would love to see that. I would love to see us remembering the divine nature that we are, and wanting to connect and hear each other's stories, and holding space for each other. I'd love to see that. I'd love to have a place where I there is no Wi-Fi. It's only connection, you know, and conversation, and yeah, celebrating each other. That's my vision, and remembering, you know, allowing ourselves to remember the gift that we are. A place to share the things that we've witnessed in each other, but not just that, to celebrate each other as well, to lift each other up. That's what
Amen.
that's what I would love to see.
Thank you for that prayer. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I had my hand up over here on the side. Like, this was what I'm also calling in, and I can't wait to see more of that with what you come up with and what's in the future and where we find ourselves. And um, amen, amen to that.
Mm.
Because as I'm hearing you explain all of this, I feel like it was a beautiful, like a prayer of calling in, asking spirit for that, and to put us in those spaces, you know, in those places with those people that are like-minded. So thank
Yeah,
you for
you're
that.
welcome. The sacredness of who we are, you know, men and women on this planet, like it's returning. I see it returning. And yeah, I want to see spaces where we can witness each other and see each other and have disagreements and have disagreements and but come together and
Yeah.
see each other with that,
Not have to be
you know?
right. Just agree to disagree and have healthy,
Exactly.
healthy disagreements.
Exactly.
So my last question for you, because I know a lot of gals out there are wondering and asking, and a lot of people are like doing the dating apps and these ways that are just not natural, you know, and are like just
Mhm.
not the best experiences of finding like-minded, um, you know, partnership.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you, for men and women out there that are ready to create relationships and ready to, you know, build, and even just build friendships, you know, platonic or even romantic, where would you say, you know, is a good start for that? What kind of activities, what kind of places can we meet like-minded men like you that, you know, so we can get off these dating apps? Because I have a
Mhm.
lot of friends that are on them, and I'm like, don't do it.
Mhm. Well, that's a good question, and I would say that it starts by finding that within ourselves first. First, are you actually that? that you were seeking, are you looking at yourself and doing what you need to do to actually to attract that? Um, and then, you know, I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, I even for me to hang around with men that I um that I would want to be with, that can be at a level of integrity and respect and honor, is still it's still difficult for me. Like, I don't go to sports bars, I don't like drinking. And this is why I was saying earlier, you know, like, to have a space where I can be in community and start connecting with people. I love connecting with people. I don't like when I go to coffee shops that everybody's like this or they're on a screen. You know, it's very difficult actually. I feel because we're in a world where there's just so many distractions that it's so hard to actually look up and find it. Um, I would say believe in the power of yourself to bring that in, and know that you can. Know that you will find that, and that if you start looking, and if you have done what you need to do, and you're looking for that, you will find that. And to be aware of the signs and the magic around you that you're creating to bring that in, because perhaps it's coming in a way that you may not see. So to be open and not, okay, well, he needs to be this, he needs to be that, he needs to dress this way, he needs to drive this car. Well, what's your priority? You know, by being open, I feel it allows you to see the magic unfolding. And I'm speaking from my own experience, you know, like, just being open and seeing, well, what am I calling forth, for one thing? How am I calling it forth? Where's it coming from? How am I doing that? And then also trusting that, and relaxing into, it's here, he's here or she's here, and all I have to do is dance with his energy, and it's gonna show up. Like, trusting. I believe trusting and knowing that, okay, I did the work and this is what I'm calling forth, and it's here and it's going to show up, you know. And that's not the easiest thing to do, you know, especially if for women. And I know, because I know I've been following, like, before this thing came through, and it seemed like the women were so excited because, you know, like, all these men that are doing the work. And then Adam Jackson even said that there was, like, the first thing was like 75 women that signed up, you know. And then they put this rule that you can't, you know, you can't really mingle at these things. um but uh yeah, I feel like, you know, if that's what you're seeking, then where will they be? For one, where are these men going to be? If you're looking for that, where do you think they're going to be? They're probably not going to be at the club. Maybe they will, you know. But asking yourself that question, and then yeah, allowing the unfolding of it and being patient. I think patience is the biggest thing. Like, patience and allowing for the unfolding. Because I could see, even in my own self, like, wow, like, I'm doing the work. I would love to have that on the other side and somebody to meet me there. And at the same time, I'm like, that hasn't been. So it would be really fucking awesome if I had that right now. You know, like, that's something that I want. I know it's there, you know, and wanting to go into that, which is more of lack. One of my buddies told me that lack is fast, scarcity is fast, and abundance is slow. And so just consider that. Like, it's not something that's could be maybe it does. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but, you know, allowing the unfolding of it, and just doing the things that you need to do to allow yourself to receive it. You know, asking yourself, what are the things that I'm doing that are keeping this away from me? How am I preventing myself from doing it? What about my worthiness? How is that showing up? You know, and not being afraid to talk to a man, not being afraid, you know, not being afraid to show who you are. You know, for me, like, presence is the biggest thing. Like if a woman's present with me, it's beautiful. I can it may not be because she's looking or I'm looking to date her, but I can feel her connection. I could feel her connection to herself if she's embodying that. If she's able to truly authentically show me something of who she is. And if she doesn't have to show me everything right then, but if I can feel that, that's that's beautiful. You know, that's an not that's it's kind of an invitation into my own exploration of, wow, who is this? It gets me curious. Who is this person? You know, who is this, like this divine connection? And I think that we're living in a time where I don't know. I feel like even though there's things going on, there's places and people that aren't safe. We're still living in a time where it's actually really safe. And for women to also go into their own stories or their own protective, whatever cell that they're holding, to become aware of that and to see where am I guarded? What barriers am I putting up? Um, and how can I allow some of myself to be seen in a way that feels right for me? Because for me, again, like I want to see a soul. I want to see a taste of who you are underneath the image, and connect with that.
Thank you for those key points. Like, first, go to self and see what it is that you're displaying. Having that openness of, it might not show up the way you're expecting, or have the dress and the car that what are your priorities? And the trust and patience. Those are huge tips, huge, beautiful, beautiful, wise words. Thank you for those, because I think that is so important. So important. And you don't even have to seek. You just have to be.
Mm.
And the magnetic force will attract what is for you. So
And the most attractive thing in a woman for me is a woman who is embodying her authenticity, unapologetically herself. Just I'm this, and she's not, let she's not putting up all the guards, but I could see her, and she's comfortable in that. That to me is really beautiful and very attractive. And I see a lot of shutting down, and I understand too. Like I want to say that, oh, it's a different, we're living in a world that has tons of programming, right? It's been programming our minds, my mind, for a long time, into what a woman is supposed to be, how she's supposed to show up, right? And I just, if a woman and a man could see those programs within themselves and let them go and just fully tap into who they are and let that shine, it's powerful. It's powerful. And
absolutely.
it's very attractive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So authenticity, people, it's just being. It's
Mm.
just being you. And you're going to attract your soul tribe, your soul clients, your soul partner, like soul friendships. Like, that's what I believe. You're, with all your awkwardness and your goofiness and your,
Mm-hmm.
like, your weirdness,
Yep.
the other weirdos are going to come like, I love that. That's me too. you know
Yeah. Or we're gonna be like, you know what? You're weird, but you're just not. You don't give a shit about how weird you are. That is fucking sexy.
right? Come on now.
That is so cool.
So we're going to go ahead and close, and I want to
Oh.
thank you from the bottom of my heart, brother, for listening to the call, for being brave, for being fully exposed, and just not holding back with your sharing of your story and your process and how far you've come. And giving yourself permission to celebrate. Thank you for
Mhm.
so much of the wisdom that you have brought today to this recording. Um, give me your handle and give me the services that you're offering so we can put them in the description so people can know how to reach out to you and, you know, to seek out some workshops or some gatherings.
Sure. It's a sacred. Hold on.
Okay.
I want to make sure I
I'm
get
going to
this
put in
right.
the description too, but just
So,
for those that are like in the car.
yeah. For those that are listening, I'm just starting to. I'm not starting, but yeah, social media is not my thing, and I'm leaning into this edge right now. And right now, I'm trying to get you my handle on Instagram so I get it right. And let's see here. Here we go. Okay, it's sacred underscore sovereign underscore warrior at Instagram.
And what are your services?
Sure. Uh, Coaching. I coach men. I also have an embodiment practice that I'm doing here on December 1st in person. So I'm going to be doing, you know, the primal. It's called primal recalibration. And then yeah, that's an experience for us to kind of really lean into edges. There's going to be ritual combat, some hape, a breathwork ceremony, breathwork, and a cold plunge, but also connection in between because it's much as is important for us to step into those masculine parts. We still want to stay connected to love and connected to our hearts as well. And so there's connection as well in that. And then I'm doing an online container right now for in the archetypes, the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And I'm going to be offering that again soon. So Instagram would be a good way to find my offerings. Yeah, so
December 1st, where's that going to be at? And how many days is that going to be?
that's just a day.
Okay.
Yeah, a day, and it's here in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Awesome.
So if you know anybody who wants to come, it's going to be a beautiful way for them to step into nature, be held in nature, and be held in brothers, and lean into some edges as well. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for
Hmm.
being here. And if you're open to coming back in the future for a more of what's new, some more lessons, some more,
Hmm.
conversations, I would love to have you back because I think it's really important for us to hear from the men and to see how you guys are doing it, you know. I really appreciate you, brother, and I just want
Thank
to
you.
honor you and I just want to celebrate you. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just so excited for what's coming for you. And um, I'll see you soon. And yeah, reach out to Christopher for some, even if it's just to reach out to ask some questions, like just hit him up on Instagram and, see where it goes and see if,
Mhm.
if if he can guide you in any way or anything.
Yeah, I offer relational help as well. Um, and I just want to say something real quick before I go. Thank you for plugging me. I really appreciate that. And I would love to hear from anybody who has any questions, who just wants to talk, who wants to ask a brother. Um, you asked me a question about, like, what was it? I forget what the question was before the call, but I just want to share. I've been on this journey for a lifetime, as many of the people who are listening will discover. Like, the journey started a long time ago. Um, there's just a few things that I want to share that, I was looking at porn. I was addicted to eating. I was, using these things to numb myself out. And I didn't shame myself. I did a little bit, but I was doing it in a progressive way that gave me the ability to actually move. I I didn't say I need to be done by this deadline. I had a vision of who I wanted to be, And I allowed myself to progress into that. You know, nature moves slow, it grows slow. We are our
Mhm.
nature. Let's not forget that we are this divine creation of nature. We're very much moving just like the growth of the trees and the things that are around us. And let's not forget, it doesn't have to be overnight. Nothing has to be overnight. But start with maybe like what I started doing is turning off the radio. I was being programmed by the radio. I started being conscious about what I'm listening to, what I'm consuming in my, not just my ears, but what I'm watching,
Mhm.
because it's all coming in, and it's gonna get rooted, and it could grow into something that I don't really want. And so slow, be patient with yourselves and allow yourselves to open and unfold to the beautiful, natural, divine thing that you're here.
Thank you for that beautiful, beautiful reminder and that beautiful invitation. And just, yeah, just we got to be easier on ourselves.
Thank you, sister, for holding this space. I really appreciate you. And you were able to help me move through this and get out what I like to share. And it's so important to have somebody, a reflection or some way to do that. And I really feel your gift of being able to pull that out of me. And so not just that, I feel nurtured, I feel loved, I feel connected to you, and I feel connected to what you're doing. And so thank you for being a light for me, because for me, that's doing something like what you're doing it's scary. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little scary. And so I appreciate you lighting the way. And
Thank you, brother.
are you doing that? You're inviting me into that in myself. And
Thank
that's
you
what I
so
see.
much. And I just want to thank you for being so fully exposed.
Mm,
That was a brave act. And you know what?
mm,
That is a self love.
mm.
To give yourself permission to be brave and fully exposed and know that it's going to be a light to somebody. So thank you for loving yourself.
All right.
Beautiful. I'll talk to you soon and I'll keep in touch.
All right.
I'm going to stop
Blessings, sister.
recording.
Thank you.